Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the December 17, 2019 regular session meeting of the Joplin Schools Board of Education. We have a roll call, please.
Here.
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 Present. Here.
Thank you, Pat. Let's pledge the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Board members, have you had an opportunity to review your agenda? I would accept a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Board. It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Doctor. It's been moved and seconded. We approve the agenda as presented. Please vote.
Yes.
And yes, that brings us to some of the tests. We've got tests and celebrations this evening. Exciting stuff. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I'm going to ask you to keep your seats until we have had an opportunity to review all these crazy awards that you have earned, and then we'll recognize everybody together if you don't mind. I'm going to begin. So I'm going to begin with Isaiah Davis. He struggled this year. He's the 2019-2020 Gatorade Missouri Football Player of the Year, Max Preps Player of the Year, MSCA Class 6 Offensive Player of the Year, MSCA Class 6 First Team All-State Running Back. I got to put Zach is the 2019-2020 Max Preps First Team All-State, the MSCA Class 6 First Team All-State Wide Receiver. Great job, Zach. Blake Hatch, 2019-2020 MSCA Class 6 First Team All-State Quarterback. Elijah Emming. Did I mispronounce that, Elijah? 2019, 2020 MSCA Class 6 Stage Team All-State Defensive Alex Curry. Alex is a 2019-2020 MSCA Class 6 Stage Team Offensive Line. So then I want to recognize, of course, the entire team, and I'm going to add a little bit. As a resident of this city, to read your success and your teammates speak so highly of one another and speak as a team instead of on individual accolades. It's pretty humbling. And we read it all year. Joplin Schools Board of Education and Administration are proud to recognize the Joplin High School football. What a super year. It really appreciate it. I don't know if you want to say something. Obviously, proud of these guys, and their hard work and dedication is not just to all but also to Tony, to the community. In this community or where it is they end up. So extremely proud of them and look forward to their upcoming achievements as well.
Thank you, Coach. We've got this certificate for the team. I'd like to congratulate you all. And I again just want to say that just as somebody who's a fan, just to hear about how you guys attribute your success to the whole team, it probably is why you guys had such a great year. And you really had a great 4-year run. I mean, it's really been a lot of fun to watch and continued success in the future. We've got more to look forward to in the future.
Thank you very much. And I think we need to see about maybe getting a photo.
Yeah, come on, guys.
So you guys will come on up and line up and pose. You come get with your team here and hold your certificates and take a photo. Say cheese.
So cool.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Not to be outdone, guys, our constitutional team did it too. So I would like to, on behalf of the Joplin Schools Board of Education and the administration, we want to proudly recognize the Joplin High School's Constitution team. The 2019 Missouri Bar's Show Me the Constitution first place winner. I believe that your teacher has a few words to keep.
Did you, maybe it's Pat's fault.
No, that's formally, so we're ready.
Oh, congratulations. Great job. That's the team. And please, come on up. Come on, get with your superintendent. She's,
We're very proud.
yeah. Oh, my God. You got it. Great job. Hi. How are you doing, Lacey? Okay, good.
Lacey's a former convict kid.
Well, I've known Lacey my whole life, or her whole life. What's that saying about me? But guys,
That is so
crazy
cool.
impressive. We get what that means, and thank you. Great job. I know you guys put a lot of work into it. We appreciate your work. Great job.
I would really like to thank the district for continuing the program. I'm sorry, Barbara Arnold couldn't be here.
Oh, yes.
She established this and showed me how to do it.
Yeah. Great lady.
So I'd like to thank her.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
In the homecoming parade. I mean,
I never get
It's
to
awesome.
get it.
yeah. Great stuff. Good team play. Thank you all so much for being here.
And you honor.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Huffman. Barbara was a wonderful lady.
I think that's our celebration. Is that all we got? Could we do anything more than that? I'll tell you what, crazy, really, really great stuff. So
Very proud.
very, very humbling to be a part, a modest part of that. So great job by those students and athletes. So that takes us to our policy committee report. Brent or Deborah, do you have a report for the group?
Sure. We actually did not meet between our last board meeting and now, but I'll share with you that there are 4 policies in second reading this evening. There's 1 policy in first reading. Later, if you have any questions, of course, Sandra will be here to help if you so choose. But it was actually on the agenda last month, and we were waiting for MSBA to come through with some editing and approval of our editing that we had done prior to that. So that's been done. MSBA originally modified the policy because the training requirement is no longer required by law. But our district personnel, they are trained and they do follow the guidelines of an approved nonviolent crisis prevention program. So, but that's in our first reading later tonight. So.
Thank you, Brent. Does anybody have any questions for Brent or Deborah concerning the policy committee? Thank you. That takes us to our superintendent's data report.
Well, and the first thing we have is our audit report by Westbrook and Company, and they are going to join us, I believe, virtually and present their findings, and there she is.
Oh, I have to read.
Welcome. That's smart.
Do we have audio yet?
I would say no.
Our audio's on now. Can you hear us?
I see the.
Yes, hello.
Okay, good.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for letting me remote in tonight and do this remotely. I really appreciate your flexibility. I'm going to switch over to the PowerPoint presentation. Share my screen, so hopefully you'll see that, and I won't be so large.
There it is.
Okay, there we go. All right, 1 second, I did not. Just gonna flip back and forth for just a second. Should be good. While that's pulling up, I'll just introduce myself. I was there last year, but my name is Sandy Joplin, and I'm one of the district auditors with Westbrook. Again, thank you guys so much for letting me call in to present this remotely. And I know you'll see 2 slides. Okay, there we go. Now you can see the presentation, and I'm a lot smaller. So I'll just go through the slides, and on each of the slides, we have referenced what section that this comes, or what section of the audit this comes out of. But feel free to just follow along with me, and that way you won't have to flip back and forth through your audit report. And then I would be glad to take any questions you guys might have. Starting out is the audit opinion. Here we state that the financial statements were presented fairly. So when we came into audit, the financial statements were in good shape. We didn't have to make any material audit adjustments. And so this is an unmodified audit opinion. Looks like there's just a little bit of a lag, so I'll just kind of pause between slides. The next slide that you're going to see is the district statement of activities for the year ended June 30th of 2019. So here we can see total expenditures broken down by function. And to the right of those expenditures, you'll see any charges for services or any operating or capital grants that would come in to offset those expenditures. And then at the far left, at the bottom, you'll see a net expenditure amount of about $60 million. Just know that those expenditures are then going to be covered by your general revenue. So your property taxes, sales tax, basic formula, those other general revenues that aren't presented on this slide. Next to come up will be the district balance sheet. So that we can see cash balances as of June 30th of 19. Okay, so we have cash balances as of June 30th of 2019. So we can see those balances broken down by fund. There was about $26 million in the general fund, and then you can go across the top line there and see that total cash balances were about $79.2 million for the year. Now on the bottom, you'll see that some of those funds were restricted or assigned, and on the next slide, it shows us the breakdown of what made up those funds. So you'll see that the general fund has some money set aside as restricted for scholarships and professional development, and then your general fund also has some money set aside for student activities and for food service. And then towards the bottom of that first column, you'll see about $22.9 million. This is the unassigned balance of the general fund. So this is what's left over to just pay the general operating expenditures of the district. Now in the debt service fund, of course, that $34 million is restricted for debt service. And then in the capital projects fund, we had about $1.7 million that was set aside. It was committed for capital projects. These are projects that the board had approved before the end of the year that didn't get completed or paid until after June. So some of these projects included the Franklin remodel, the early childhood center, there was purchase of some buses, and the turf and track overspray were a few of the larger ones that make up that number. And then there were some funds that were assigned for student activities. Anything left in the capital projects fund is of course going to be assigned to capital projects. On the next slide that's coming up, you'll see the big picture for the year. So this is the district statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balances. At the top, you can see revenues broken down by source and by fund. And so all the way to the right, we have total revenues of $94.4 million. Underneath that, we have expenditures broken down by function and by fund. And then we have boxed in red the net change in fund balances for the year. And if you look across, starting at the general fund and then to the right, there was an increase in each fund balances for the year for a total increase of about $10.6 million. Then we have, is your slide blank? Are you blank there, or can you still see the presentation?
We can see it.
Okay, this is an excerpt from the notes to the financial statement. So this just shows the district's debt at the end of June 30th of 2019. Oh, there we go. So you can see debt payments due in the next year. And then we also, in the footnotes, show future payments on those debts. So you can see an amortization schedule of the bonds and leasing payments. So we should be, skip a couple here. And I'm going to move on to some graphs. During our presentation, we like to show historical trends of the district. So this first graph here is revenues, so that you can see over the past 5 years how revenues shook out from year to year. And so you'll see for 19, local revenue was up compared to the prior year, as well as state, where federal had dropped down a bit. But we can see our totals up at the top. The total revenues were about $94.4 million for 2019, and 2018 they were about $98.8 million. So down about $4 million for the year. Now we do the same thing with expenditures. And when those come up here in a second, you'll see that expenditures were really flat compared when you compare 19 to 18. So in fiscal year 19, your expenditures were around $83.755 million, and in 18 they were $83.728 million. So barely a change there expenditure-wise. And as far as the categories of expenditures broken down, salaries and benefits, purchase services, those were all pretty level compared to prior years as well. There was a little jump in capital outlay, but everything is pretty consistent. As far as reserves, as of June 30th of 2019, reserves were up to 36.12%. So you can see on the graph that it will be shown that they're trending up, so the district is healthy there. And ADA has also increased. It increased about 51 for the year. So those are a couple of positive trends that are included. During our audit, we look at compliance with state statutes. We look at specifically attendance, transportation, budget compliance, and compliance with purchasing. And we did have a couple of immaterial instances of non-compliance that are reported. The first one is in regards to attendance. So the remedial hours that were summarized by the building did not all get uploaded to core data. Core data was understated by about 1,200 remedial hours. So we found that during the audit, those changes have been made and corrected, and that resulted in an increase in ADA of about 1.05, so $1,000 more in additional funding for this district. The second state finding was in regards to competitive purchases. When we looked at the purchase for the project for the Adult Tech Center, we found that it was advertised on the district's website, and that bids were received for that. But state statute says for new construction, it also has to be advertised in a local publication. Now, I'll just add that we looked at a lot of purchases like this while we were there, and the district is really good about getting the advertisements in the paper, so it seems like this is just one that slipped in the cracks. Like I said, bids were received for it, and it was on the website, but it just didn't. Look at internal controls during our audit, and there's a delay. I'm going to go forward a few slides, and it may go faster on your end, but you're not missing anything. I'll just kind of summarize it while that's going. But we look at internal controls during the audit. Now, we don't provide an opinion on internal controls, but we do look at them and use them to help determine the scope of our audit. We didn't report any deficiencies, controls over financial reporting, and we also look at controls over federal awards. We didn't report any deficiencies over compliance with federal awards either. This year we looked at SPED and child nutrition for our major programs, and we didn't report any findings in those years. So this slide here is just a summary of all of that I just said. And at the bottom, you'll just see where it boxed in red, if an oddity is qualified as a low-risk oddity. I just wanted to point this out that this is nothing to be alarmed about. This just means that the district is cash basis. So the uniform guidance of the federal program says that with cash basis, you can't be low risk. This is the case in 95% of our districts. So what this means to the district is not much really. To the auditor, it just means that we have to audit a higher percent of the federal program. So I just wanted to point that out that there's nothing to worry about there. Then I'll move on to our required communications letter. This is where we would report any best practices or just general recommendations of things we've seen throughout the audit. The first comment is in regards to purchasing documentation. We found that a large repair project for foundation repairs to the safe room wasn't bid, and we understand that it appeared that it was done through a change order. So we're just recommending that if there are large projects like that in the future, I know there's sometimes a little gray area between what's repair and what's construction, but since it is a large amount, we would recommend like that would still be bid to make sure it's a fair price. Also, we saw a purchase of some buses. There was no problem with the part of the purchasing plans. We found that it was bid, advertised, and all the procedures were followed, but only one bid was received. So if that's the case, what the district can do is go out to the Missouri, they have a cooperative purchasing agreement. You can look at that and see what bids are out there and just compare the bid that you received to the cooperative agreement just to make sure that it's right. We also looked at employee reimbursements during the audit. We found several reimbursements for mileage to sporting events and conferences. And this is not uncommon at all, but we would just recommend that the district may want to consider doing some cost-benefit analysis of whether it would be beneficial to purchase another vehicle or continue to pay out several mileage reimbursements. So just a cost-benefit analysis there. As far as meal money on activity trips, we found that on some trips, money was provided to sponsors and students. And when that money was provided, there was an acknowledgement form signed saying that that was where the money was going. But we're just recommending that the policy over this be reviewed just to make sure that this practice is in compliance with district policy. We also looked at fundraising. We've been looking at fundraising a lot more as we've seen increasing online resources such as GoFundMe and Donor's Choice. And we're just recommending that the district would review its policy over online fundraisers or implement the policy if there's not one. A really good resource is the Nixon School District. They've put out several policies over this area, so you can refer to them. Also, in regards to fundraising, we know that the district has a form, an application form that can be filled out with a fundraiser, and there's a reconciliation on there to show whether, revenues and expenses to show whether the fundraiser was profitable. We found when we were looking at fundraising that it didn't seem like that form was consistently turned in across the board. So we're just recommending that that form be submitted for all fundraisers, even if it's intended to break even, and that a reconciliation be done so that it can be determined if it really did break even or if it was profitable and whether you want to continue with that fundraiser. We also looked at gate receipts. We found that central office is reconciling the deposit amount to the cash reconciliation form that's prepared by the gatekeepers. So there's a reconciliation in place. We're just recommending an additional step when the money is counted down. If the reconciliation form could go straight to central office, or if whoever is counting down that money could take a picture of that and send the form to the central office, that would add an additional control over the receipt. Because what's happening is sometimes the money gets counted down and then it changes hands several times before it actually makes it to the bank and the receipt gets to the office. So on that initial countdown, if there is a way for central office to get a copy of the sheet or the original sheet, it would provide an additional control of the reconciliation that what was actually counted down at that time was what went to the bank. And then our last comment is in regards to attendance. We know that the district switched to Power School attendance software this year. And with Power School, we have to do a backup of the data before rolling forward to a new year. And so we've had some districts who have lost their attendance information because they didn't make a backup. So this is just a reminder to do that. We thought with switching software, it would be a good time to include this in our report, just with a reminder to make sure that backup is done so that you are not losing data. And that concludes my presentation. Do you all have any questions for me?
Mandy, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the board. It was a fine report, I thought. I particularly appreciate the recommendations that are provided to us, and we'll try to improve some of our processes there where recommended. Does anybody else have any questions for Mandy or her group? It looks like it's a pretty good audit report. We look like we're doing well as a district. And I like the fact that our capital resources, or what is it, capital seems to be on the upswing, Dr. Langford. It's reserve. That's what I'm looking for, is a word. So that's positive. It is because of Shelley. So any other questions?
I might just point out this group, your auditors, are very good to work with, and their goal is to just give their advice based on experiences that they've seen, and there's nothing in there that we're really alarmed at. There's probably only one that we probably would not comply with again, and that had to do with the Early Childhood Center, because if we'd have gone through the rebidding process, we would have lost all the money. So that was probably the only one that the position would have been difficult to comply with, but all the others are things that we can look at, and it's building level responsibility, and then as far as our athletic gate receipts and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, I will confess that I was grilled a little bit by the group, and I couldn't think of anything that we could do better in my conversations with our audit team. The one thing that they brought to my attention that I thought was very important was the opportunity to participate in some sort of bidding group or whatever it is to sometimes we as a district don't get as many bids back as we solicit. We seek bids, and sometimes we on this board have discussed our frustration and frankly my surprise that we don't have as many bids to choose from as perhaps we would like. And in those circumstances, our audit team has recommended a resolution to that in a form that I had not heard of before I met with that audit group.
And we would agree with you from the standpoint that was a very good recommendation on the school buses, because I do remember the consternation that you had specifically because of the numbers of bids, and it's not like it's just a car dealer that's bidding, 3 or 4 car dealers.
Right.
So that's good. But we have engaged the buying services, Carrie, I believe, in the when we did the turf. That ultimately was done through a cooperative. So these are available. There's several that we have access to. So we can get information so we can at least have a comparative price of the bid that we receive that we would bring to you.
I would like to mention to our board members that you are welcome to keep this audit report. However, if you choose not to do so, please return it to Pat at the end of the meeting. Thanks. Is there any action that is required on that?
Later in the agenda.
Fair enough. That puts us on to the next item, I believe. Thank you, Mandy, for being here.
Okay, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
So our next item under data report is our health and dental plan update, Dr. Langford.
Well, we, again, provide all the information, and I'm not going to speak specifically in detail because, again, Shelley, the form that we've laid out gives you all the information that just accrues throughout the years we move forward. But we did mention that we had some extremely large claims, and that the last month our fund balance was down. Well, we did receive the reinsurance check. It was a significant check, over $800,000. So now, as a result, our fund balance has now grown back above $5 million, and we paid some prescription drugs today, we get the bills, but they're more in line with what we would call normal. And so hopefully we'll see that trend continue through the year. And we don't speak too much about the health and dental plan, but I would point out that we knew going into this plan that we would see a decreasing fund balance. And if you compare them month to month, for instance, we're down about $40,000 from where we were a year ago. But we knew that would happen because we were using the reserves to help pay for the benefit.
Passing those on to the membership or the people participating in the plan.
So it is trending as we had said when it was set up.
And then right behind that are our financial statements.
Financial statements, again, I still think I do think the thing that the auditors pointed out in their review, and I've always believed very strongly in, and I made this statement yesterday actually to the lady I was talking to in the district who does an excellent job working with Dave Pettit down at the Buildings and Grounds, and we visit a lot, and there's a PowerPoint about utilities at the high school, and I just did some things and sent it back, and she really liked what we did, and now we may be having some discussion about some PowerPoints, how we can better analyze data. But what I pointed out, if there's not a way to take all of those $89 million and get them into something you can comprehend, then you never know if there's an issue that you need to ask, why is the issue there? And so I think one of the better things that we did a year ago when it's been almost 2 years now, we put this single form together so you can have a snapshot version of how does this year compare with the prior year? What's going on here? But we know, as we've said, last year we got some money from the state that we won't get again, so that's why the state funding is down this year. You drop down to the expenditure, and Shelley mentioned last month when helped explain that away, our incidental fund expenditures are increasing. A good portion of that is because we made a single upfront payment for some insurance that we used to pay monthly, so that drives the cost up. And then also we no longer carry an inventory for food service. So $500,000 of this difference of the 12 million to 11 million is about 1.4 million. $500,000 of that is just nothing more than accounting as far as food service is concerned, because we used to buy it and then we put it in inventory, so it's like we didn't buy it. So now our expenditures are already there, but overall our budget, there are no surprises. We've had increased expenditures in this incidental fund because support staff, who are largely paid out of the incidental fund, got salary increases. We're halfway into the year with that. And then on the Fund 2, the expenditures, teachers got raises and stuff. So everything appears at this point to be trending just as we expected. Now, I would like to just mention while we're talking about money and revenue and fund balances that by the time we get back again, the Missouri General Assembly will have reconvened in Jefferson City. And it's going to be an interesting year this year of opportunity as I see it. Don't know what could happen, and I will tell you, I would hate to be a legislator that has to deal with everybody up there with their hand out for money. I mean, that's tough. I respect the difficulty. But because of the state adequacy target, which basically is frozen at last year's level, the call for the funding formula, the comparative call, is only $10 million, but 8.4 has nothing to do with the SAT. Only 1.5 has to do with that. It's only $10 million. And there are times where that's been over $100 million. Last year it was 60-some million. And the State Board of Education, and I mentioned this to our Board of Education because the State Board of Education is requesting from the state that they review the funding for transportation. Because when the economic crisis hit in 2008, 9, 10, 11, and I happened to be there when the full impact of that really was impacted, transportation was an area that took a significant hit because the goal was to fund the formula. And if you look at the 20-year span, if you look at what was actually allocated to schools for transportation, if you began in the year 2000 through the year 2009, and then you look at the year 2010 to 2019, which is concluded. I've keep a lot of this data just for my own information, but we received only 65% in that second decade as compared to the first decade. So I'm very hopeful they're requesting that maybe over 3 years they can raise it to where transportation would be fully funded. I don't know that that can happen, but I'm hopeful that we can get some support for increasing, since we don't have a large formula call, maybe we can get some transportation funding, which then gives us money to do the, actually you have to use money to run our buses and take care of that. So I just point that out because as we're sitting here in December, we're really just a month away from you starting to give consideration to the next year's budget. We'll be thinking about moving forward. So that was just a little editorial ad lib, but be optimistic that maybe we can get some support for that.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Does anybody have any questions of Dr. Langford concerning the financial statements?
Okay, the next item is your enrollment report, and it shows enrollment across the district. And I might point out that in the one-day total, which was December 13th when this was captured, this does include about 48 of our students that are now in virtual enrollment for our district.
Thank you, Dr. Moss. Does anybody have any questions of Dr. Moss concerning our enrollment report? It's my understanding we have no public comments this evening. That takes us to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Doctor. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Doctor. It's been moved and seconded by Dr. Joseph and Dr. Ford that we approve our consent agenda as presented. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. That moves us to our regular agenda. Security IP cameras and installation for elementary schools. Dr. Saketa.
Okay, in a couple seconds, we're going to get the folks up here that are going to explain a little bit more about the cameras, but I want to give you a little bit more back information. Several years ago, we've had principals talking about cameras and interested in more cameras, and we had some of our elementary schools, 4 of them, have some semblance of some cameras. Soaring Heights, the newest, one of the newer ones, had some cameras in Irving as well, but not coverage around the entire school like maybe some of those principals would like. Also, this came up in our safety audits that Jim Houchel has done over the years. It also came up in our Security and Safety Committee that Lori and Deb and Sherrick are on. So they were talked about, and we had all kinds of thoughts about cameras and how much is it going to cost and so on. I want to thank Sherrick's affiliation too with the foundation of bringing that idea to the foundation as far as helping to raise some money for the cameras. And Gloria Turner is here, and Kim Woodard, and they made a significant contribution to this. And Sherrick can talk about that a little bit. So I want to thank them right up front here because their charge was to help us purchase cameras. So in doing that and making sure that we got everything ready to have a good bid process and get things out, we convened, and Eric was a big help in his team putting together good specs. We looked really hard. Jim worked very hard to get the specs out, and we had a 2-phase process to try to evaluate the winning bid. So anyway, I would like to have Rick and Jim and Aaron come up if they would like to, or whoever wants to come up with Aaron and Jim as well. Come up and talk to you about them just a little bit and to give you just a little indication what we're doing. Jim went around to all the elementary schools, including Beacon out at Dunaweg and also Roy S. Wood. And he took the maps of the schools and looked at sight lines and where we needed to be for all the different types of equipment around. And I want to pass this around to you. It's just a quick little 2-page flyer so that you can look at. So there was a lot of care put into it, and it's been talked about for a long time, again, like I said, in our safety and security meetings. And anyway, I would like to have Aaron and Rick tell you just a little bit briefly about the cameras and the kind of coverage you're going to get, so we can, so that the foundation folks can feel really good about what they've done for us and in the district as well with the infrastructure. Go ahead.
Appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. The proposal that we've provided for the district will give school administrators live video and recorded video. Look into the system. That software and app will run virtually on any device, Windows and Mac, Apple and Android, phone, tablet, anything that's in front of you. That system access will be available whether they're on premise or away, out of state, whatever. It's all internet cloud accessible. Our proposal is turnkey. We're providing all the labor, all the material. We have factory trained staff. We don't sub out any work, so it's all in-house, provided by us. Users' access into the system can be very restricted. So someone at one school can be given access to just one camera, just a group of cameras. They can be given access to view only live video or live and recorded. They can be given access to export video to save off to give to someone else or not. A very flexible platform with access into the system. All the software upgrades are free for the life of the product. So there's no ongoing licensing fees in the system. Digital Watchdog is the manufacturer that is represented in our quote that you have a sheet in front of you from. They're a U.S.-based manufacturer and engineering firm. They've been in the video industry for over 30 years. Our company, Total Electronics, has been based in Joplin for over 30 years. So we're very comfortable and very confident with this solution.
And I want to say that the demonstration they gave us for the camera use on the computers and then the ability to look at, the principals can look at the cameras from their cell phones or iPads when they're off-site, and to be able to maneuver the cameras around and capture different times. You know, when something happens in one part of the building and a student or whomever goes from one part of the building to the other, you have to track them throughout the building. And Jim's very good at that with things that we deal with at the high school. And so that's a real big, thing, a big advantage for us to have, the ease of use because and the time saved to it. In fact, I think it's an upgrade from the system we have at the high school, I would say. Anything you want to say, Jim? It's but we're excited about it, and I think that it's going to be a very good product for the elementary schools. And I'm sure we got a couple of elementary principals here that wish they would have had it when they were.
I was just going to say, those 3 o'clock in the morning alarm calls, this would have been very helpful.
Yeah.
Because they have night vision, so you can see in the building at night.
Yeah. Then also, I think, too, we all are going to have camera coverage outside on the perimeter. So that's a big deal, too. So it's a big deal what happens in the day, what happens on the playground, and then also if there's any, hanky-panky going on at the wrong time or something comes in or, someone tries to mess with the property or whatever, we can help the police and those kind of things.
I would invite comments from our board members. I've got something to say. It's no secret or hidden agenda that a huge issue in our schools today is safety. It's the front page news on most of our newspapers around the country. We see it we hear it in the media everywhere. How are we keeping our kids safe? And I appreciate Jim Houchel, our SRO, who led this charge, and I want to give a special thanks to our foundation who picked up the baton immediately. I simply mentioned it during a meeting. It wasn't me that got it done, it was the foundation. I didn't make a call. And they raised $130,000 of this $225,000 installation on their own. That's from funds raised through the public who wanted to contribute their money to this project because we want safe schools. And so I would like to thank the foundation. I'd like to thank the public who made the donations to the foundation. And I'd like to thank everybody who worked on this project to make it, to bring it where it is today. And I look forward to it being installed in our schools throughout our district. So hear, hear. tonight, we do have Gloria Turner, who's the president of the Joplin Schools Foundation, and we also have Kim Woodard with her, and they didn't come here to make a speech, I know, but we would welcome any comments they may have. We don't want to embarrass them, but we're certainly appreciative that they're here, and they heard the call and they answered. So, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for these nice gentlemen? They're really talkative, and you can tell they want to speak.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
They're so excited, they don't have anything to say.
I mean, Jim cannot wait to get in front of the podium over there. Go ahead.
My question is who has access outside the school district? Like, does the police department, do you guys have access to it? Once it's installed and in our possession, who only has access?
That's totally to your discretion. We would, under a normal project for us, the IT guys would have the credentials. They're going to provide us with a lot of that technical information to make it accessible. So that's completely up to you. So to grant someone access, they've got to be set up in the system with a user profile, and they've got to have a lot of technical information, know-how, in order to get to that.
Okay. And do you guys continue access with it?
In a lot of our projects, we do, but that is completely up to the discretion of the customer.
I think that we intend to primarily monitor this system. The goal. I think that answers your question.
Yes, that does.
Yes.
Great.
And in light of the audit, did we bid this? How is it that?
Yes, we went through a process where we had several vendors that had contacted us. Jim had talked to a lot of vendors, and there were at least 6 or 8, and then we had a required meeting where when they came and we talked about it and everything, and then I think we had 5 or 6 that showed up at that, and then we had responses after that. So it was we had people from Springfield, out of state. We had camera producers or suppliers that called asking because they knew that some of their distributors were they want to make sure who the local distributors were, even in the proximity. So I even had people calling me to make sure that they got a camera bid out to people like Aaron's company and Rick's company.
And to be clear, this was a competitive bid project.
Yep.
And we thank TEC for their low bid.
Yep.
We realize it's a lot of money. The other folks, the other vendors that made bids came in higher. One was significantly higher. And so we know that TEC is doing their best to present this as a great option for Joplin schools. So we thank them for their partnership on this project.
And I might say, just from
Please.
a financial point of view, it cost $230,000, I think is what it was. But if you look at what the foundation raised, I mean, the district accomplished something 50 cents on the dollar. So that's a real bargain. It's a priority for the
If I may interrupt, less than 50 cents on the dollar.
So that makes it a better bargain.
Yeah, I mean, this is a celebration.
Was this through the Major Saver cards?
No,
No,
this
this
was
was something
your
else?
foundation. So our foundation board is comprised of how many members, Gloria?
We have
12 members.
We wrote a grant and received $20,000. The foundation ourselves, we said we would match up to $50,000, so we provided $50,000, and then we've had several people that have donated from anywhere from $100 to $1,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
And that's how we've raised.
Thank you.
I think we're at $132,000.
That's
Awesome. Thank you.
exactly. I hope everybody heard her. They made calls. They contacted people locally to help raise these funds, and the foundation itself had already raised some money that they've offered a match on, and then people gave varying amounts, and every penny counted. And we really appreciate the board's efforts. I don't know who all here serves on boards and are volunteers, but it's not fun to call people and ask people for money. Did you have fun doing that, Gloria? Julie? Kim, did you have fun calling? But that's what happens when people go to work for you, and it's very humbling.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Lots of
Sheriff,
time.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
might just
Brent,
add that
please,
over
yeah.
the last couple of years, we've had random closures of some of our elementary playgrounds due to vandalism, trespassing, et cetera. So this will, in effect, hopefully curb some of that and open our resources to the community more.
Thank you. Good point. We're trying to, monitoring things deters bad actors, I think, and we certainly hope that it has that impact. That's our expectations. So I guess we need a motion.
Well, I would be honored to make the motion.
Thank you,
that we
Deb.
approve the purchase of the cameras for the elementaries.
Thank you,
and
Deb.
additional buildings.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brent. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this purchase. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you for being here tonight, ladies.
And gentlemen.
Thank you.
And gentlemen.
I know, I
I
can't believe you did
apologize.
that.
I'm pretty slow anyway. So, okay. Next item is the approval of our audit report. That takes us back to Dr. Langford. We received our report earlier this evening. Dr. Langford, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I think she reviewed, you asked questions, statements were made, you have the artifact there in your hands, and so it does have to be approved, and it does have to be submitted to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education by December 31st.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Langford or Shelley? Do I have a motion? Lori?
I will move that we approve the audit report.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the audit report. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. It takes us back to our accounts payable. Dr. Langford.
Again, you have received copies of all the bills. It is a reminder again that what we're doing now is not reflected in the financial statements we just saw. And thinking financial statement, I failed to point out, if you would look at the financial statement balance of last month that we just presented compared to this one, it's down about $11 million, but remember, we did consummate that paying off of those bonds. Saved, we believe, something over $40,000 by doing that. So that was money that's being held, which was reflected in the audit that we just approved, that money that were there that were targeted in the capital projects fund, and so it is down. But now we will not be having the inflation of those monies that were pending to pay off something that would have been paid off June 1st, 2020. But on the expenditures that you have, we're asking this evening that you approve expenditures for the month that total $3,491,000. That was done in 2 check distributions, one last week, or the normal accounts payable that we process so that we can keep our vendors paid, which is a priority that we have. And then tonight's board meeting, we had an additional amount that we're paying, and that's, again, totals $3.4 million. If we compare it to last year, it was 5.5 this month. So there are always reasons of why it's up or down, and payroll and the payment cycles, or maybe big ticket expenditures with the construction. There's several things that cause that. But overall, that's the comparison we like to do to make sure that things are trending in a normal rate, and they are. So I'd recommend that you approve the accounts payable, and you have a complete listing of every penny that's spent that you have access to.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Does anybody have any questions of Dr. Langford concerning our accounts payable? I entertain a motion.
I would move that we pay our bills in the form of 3.4 and change million.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Brent, and thank you, Deborah. It's been moved and seconded that we approve our accounts payable. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. That takes us to our Finance and Human Resources software adoption. Dr. Langford and Justin Crawford.
Justin, why don't you just take the lead? And make the
Yeah, somebody needs to take the lead on this deal, because
Dr. Langford,
there's gonna be
you're the
questions.
one leading this charge.
Well, this is something in the brief time that I've been working with Joplin schools that has caught my eye simply because I truly believe there are two functions in your accounting program. One is to account for the funds that you have so that we can generate an audit report, so we can speak to the patrons of the school district, the taxpayers, and tell them where their money went and do it in accordance to how it is supposed to be spent. That's half of it. The other half, though, is you remember you have to look at things and say, this doesn't seem right, before you can ask, why isn't it right? And so the analysis of data is the piece. The accounting system that the school has had for the last 10 years, things evolve over time, and especially in the technology world, it changes very quickly. The accuracy, we cannot say anything critical about the accuracy. There have been very good people to work with, but they serve only 6 school districts in the state of Missouri. And when the decision was made, there were some reasons, and Eric could go into detail more of the reasons, and Nathan, if he were here, as to why they were chosen, but we were transitioning from our own AS400 program, and we weren't moving from one of the canned programs, and so this seemed to, they seemed to have the capacity 10 years ago to make that switch. But in observing it, and during the time I've been working with it, it has been very frustrating to me that literally to try to pull reports and then be able to use those reports to compare to prior years and things, it's a data query every time you want something. And I started raising questions. A year ago, they asked me, how often should you bid these type programs? I said, well, I think about every 10 years. You cannot go in and make major moves on student information systems. We understand what we've gone through the last 2 years, or on this type system, and do it every 3 years. You simply cannot do that. There's too much data that you're trying to collect and what have you. But I said we do need to go out there and see what is available. So we sent out proposals, and Eric and the technology folks generally handle that. They sent out the proposals. We got 5 proposals back. We eliminated one right off the bat. It was out of Arlington, Texas. They had no school in the state of Missouri. We were looking to have at least 5 schools in the state of Missouri. They had none. Tremendous upfront cost of buying the program, and then a tremendous ongoing maintenance cost of the program. And so it was easy to take that one out. There was another one that I think would have been good to look at, but it was still, the number of schools that it had was not significant, but was much more significant. I think that the cost appeared to be good, but the querying of data was still a similar process. So we said, okay, we want to look at 3. We determined we would look at our current vendor. We would look at the Tyler product, which the SysFin product, and we'd also look at Power Schools, simply because we had just recently transitioned to Power Schools for our student information system. We had them come in and make presentations. We did feel like that, if you can listen to a presentation, and but we tried to make the decision based on these factors. Number 1, what's it going to cost us? Number 2, what are we going to gain by making the change? Number 3, how many schools in the state of Missouri are utilizing this product? We have over 200 school districts in the state of Missouri that are using the Tyler product. We have several within 45-minute drive of here. With our current system, we'd have to go to the Kansas City, Missouri School District to find the nearest school district that was using it. We spent a lot of time, and then we had SysFin come back and again answer questions. We assembled committees. We assembled in this room, and we literally had more people sitting around this table than we have here tonight reviewing the product. I will tell you that there's consternation about moving, because the greatest fear of the human being is the unknown, and change is the unknown. And when we've been doing something, the idea we're going to do something different, there's anxiety about that. But what I felt like, and this is where I strongly advocated to the group, I said, I'm not going to be around a long time. If I knew I was going to be here a long time, I would be strongly advocating for moving this. And so we have this discussion, and here's why. Majority of school districts in the state of Missouri already use it. We have neighboring school districts that use it that we can at least partner with and talk, and we have people that we can call that are like we are that we can ask questions. But the greatest thing that you have is the ability, the minute you enter something into that, we can go in, and once we're getting a program called Pulse, and this Pulse program enables us to do the comparative analysis with the current year and the 2 preceding years, or the three. You get a 3-year comparison of what you're doing. We can generate these things. We can make it very easy for someone to know exactly this is what monies are left, instead of they don't have to call Gigi, they don't have to call Shelley and ask questions, and we can streamline our operations, and we believe give a higher degree of accountability as far as our decision on where we want to spend our funding. And another thing that we really liked about it is if they're utilizing someone, if there's another school district utilizing their project. Now, the school district can say, we don't want to do this, and they have the right to not do that. But we could pick 10 schools similar to us and say, we want to compare ourselves to them and see what their expenditures are. It helps us really study what we're doing. So we liked those features as well. Carl Junction's used it since 2002. Neosho's used it a good while. Seneca implemented it about 4 years ago. Willard's had it since 2002. Diamond uses it. And so there are just a lot of neighboring school districts that do that. There is upfront cost of the training, and then your purchase of the software going through, and then there will be maintenance cost that we have ongoing. And I think you all got the grid, I believe, as far as the cost is concerned, of what it would cost to move into that. As best we can determine, the training cost would be $22,830 after we revisited the question with them yesterday morning. We had one more follow-up conference with them. The first year is high because we're paying the software cost. You do that with anybody that you buy. Going thereafter, it's very comparable. And I will say in both Tyler and Alio, we eliminated Power School pretty well at the get-go. We were down, and we actually negotiated the prices for both of these down as compared to what their original bids were. And so this is a little better price than what we got. But we did not notify anyone until yesterday of what our decision as far as our recommendation to the board was going to be. I personally called our current vendor, Alio, and told them that it would be our recommendation to the board that we would transfer, or we would migrate to the SysVin program effective July 1. That is our goal. And we want to do it now if we're making the decision, because the next board meeting's at the end of January. We want time to make this transition, because it's going to require a lot of effort to do that. And I do know, again, that there's cost involved, but we feel like that it's an expenditure that will yield greater benefits than the cost by moving to this program. So I would recommend to the board that they allow us to enter into an agreement with the Tyler SysVin. Tyler's out of Plano, Texas. It's the information that I had, but we would use to them, and we would start in January. We'll have some documents and agreements that we have to get up, but we would like to start the progress to do that. I'd be glad to answer any questions or defer them to Shelley if you have some.
Thank you, Dr. Langford. Does anybody have any questions of Dr. Langford or Shelley or Justin concerning this proposal to move from Alio Wiedenhammer to Tyler SysVin?
It seems like their annual costs are very comparable in every year except the first, or 21. So is their cost so much in 21 because we would be purchasing their software, whereas Alio in 21, we already have their software?
We already have it. Okay. And at one time, we purchased it.
Okay.
So anybody, if you make the transition, you're going to pay for that up front. And I do apologize, Justin's name's on here because of the HR piece, but this dovetails with the HR. So we currently do some of the work in the human relations human relations department through this project, and we had them included in all these discussions.
So my understanding is that this is a better system than what we're on in that it enables you to compile reports much easier than our current program does. Is that right, Shelley?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
And have you had some time to work on this, Tyler Sisvin, and have a reasonable belief that it's going to be readily, easily usable once the information is transferred over?
We haven't actually got to be in it ourselves.
We
but
don't have a sandbox, that's what they refer
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have watched demos, and we actually went to Carl Junction too, and had their.
And those people just love it, I'm sure.
Yeah, she said she didn't have anything bad to say.
So when I look at a $60,000 price difference, I see that as partially obviously having to buy the system, and I also see it over a 5-year period. That's not, so I think that's fairly comparable, and that the next system that you looked at that seemed to be a fit was nearly 40% more, than even that, an additional nearly $300,000, and we're not looking there. So this is still a competitive system that we're in.
The thing that I feel good about this, and let me give you an example, is if you went to Shelley's office today, you would find literally files, folders that full of white paper, which is nothing more than records of journal entries of changes that are in this system. So when the auditors come and we've made a change to the budget that you originally approved in July, we have to document why. We have to go find the paper that documents the why. In this system, we can record that information right into the system so that when the auditor comes in and wants to look, you just pop it up, we made that, and the explanation is right there. Those are just examples. And again, very good people, nothing about the people. But when we came and were doing their presentation, we had a series of questions, and it was generally, the response was, we will look into that, or these are some things we've been thinking about working on, and it was just, basically, if you looked at the program 10 years ago and you looked at it now, it's basically the very same program, and you don't usually find that in technology. And when you go back to the number of schools that are using, I get it. If I'm a business person that's doing a nationwide service and I only have 6 clients in Missouri, they don't have time to spend that much time in Missouri. They were always helpful and tried to, but this system, we believe, will serve Joplin schools, leadership team, as far as decision-making in the accounting system. We think there's a win-win right there.
Thank you, Doctor. Does anybody have any additional questions for this group? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to transition from our current vendor to the Tyler Sisvin Finance and Human Resources.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Lori. It's been moved and seconded that we approve this expenditure. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, everyone. That takes us to a resolution calling a special election on a general obligation bond in Joplin schools. This is exciting, Dr. Moss.
It sure is. We have some language to approve tonight. And there's some history behind this, starting with our formation of our long-term facilities committee, and the board's well aware of the meetings that took place last year and the studies that came through that, and then eventually we had certain findings that were presented to the board, and you approved this to move forward with that project, and this takes care of the language that will be on the ballot, asking our voters to approve our general obligation bonds to generate $25 million to be able to construct a new elementary school, which will combine West Central and Columbia, as well as adding the building addition to Kelsey Norman to take care of the emergent needs that came out of that group. So Hayden Crumpton with Gilmore Bell, they're our bond counsel. They prepared the attached resolution, and you'll notice that Stiefel is our financial advisor. You may know them better as George K. Baum. George K. Baum is now Stiefel. And of course, we'll have election costs assessed by Jasper and Newton County clerks. Administration recommends the Board of Education approve the attached resolution. Instruct the Secretary of the Board to file for proper instruments of notification with the clerks of the county courts for Jasper and Newton counties, and I might reiterate that this will be a no-tax increase bond issue, keeping our debt service levy the same as it is now.
Thank you, Doctor. I hope everybody's had a chance to review the resolution. I reviewed it, and when I read the question, oftentimes, when you read a question that's going on a ballot, you want it to be fairly evenly presented and not biased, and I believe that's a pretty straightforward reading of what's being asked upon. So I thank our council for their language that they offer, and I think that our voters will have a clear understanding of what's being requested of them, which I think is very important. So does anybody have any questions or comments concerning this language? Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I will make the motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you, Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution calling for a special election on a general obligation bond question in Joplin schools. There being no further discussion, I'd ask that you vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you, everyone. That takes us to our calendar for the 2020-2021 year. Ms. Mwangi.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, I never know where you're sitting now. I'm kind of looking all but I found you.
So as you know, legislators passed a law that required us to start no earlier than 14 days after Labor Day. So what that has done is made an adjustment to our calendar. Julie Munn is our calendar committee chair, as she worked through that process with a group of district employees, as well as Dr. Fort, able to join us for those meetings. And what you see before you to approve this evening is the calendar for next school year. If you take our current calendar and lay it against this calendar, they will look very similar, minus the start date. The start date has been pushed to the 24th. That is the earliest that we can start next year. And keep in mind that this is due to legislation. So I think us understanding the more local control we can have, the better. But given what we have, we will recommend to start school on August 24th. We will be very supportive of our kindergarten teachers that week. I know they are a little stressed out about a full week with little 5-year-olds, but given the change with legislation, we believe this is the best recommendation for the district for next school year. We did keep our 2 weeks at Christmas, Thanksgiving. I know I've been gathering a lot of calendars from surrounding districts. I will tell you everyone that I have been in contact with is starting the 24th. What I'm finding in a lot of districts, they're taking off shorter winter vacations. Maybe they're going on a Wednesday or a half day before Thanksgiving. So I feel really good about the calendar that we've protected a lot of the time that we've had elsewhere. We're just going to have to go a full week for the first week. So I would recommend that the board approve the 2020-2021 calendar for next school year.
Thank you, sir.
I would add it was a tough decision with lots of discussion because starting a full week is exhaustive. But the committee that was representing the schools wanted to protect Christmas break. That was the priority, was 2 weeks at Christmas. So lots of good graces for our teachers for a full week.
So if you know a kindergarten teacher, maybe send them some extra chocolate August 24th through the 28th next year.
Well, and I want to commend the committee. What I saw was a cooperative group that was willing to look for compromise, because one of the challenges that this legislation has given us is it's difficult to even up your semesters when we start this late. And it's not what's best for kids to come back after a Christmas break and then have to take finals. So while instructionally it's a challenge, particularly for semester classes, to maybe not have as many days in the first semester, that was recognized by our calendar committee, and I think that's part of the willingness to, even though it's going to be a rough first week as we condition ourselves back to going a full week, their willingness to do that meant a lot to me.
Sarah, thank you. I would move that we adopt the calendar for the 2021 school year.
Second.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Mike. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the calendar for the 2020-2021 school year as presented by Ms. Mwangi. Is there any further discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. That takes us to support vehicle replacement. Dr. Saketa.
Okay, Dave Pettit's on his way up.
69,000 miles in 23 years.
Yeah. I'm going to speak to that.
That's not a lot of miles.
He may have a
About a
little
year.
more comments as one of my operations directors that wants to speak a little more. So anyway, he's going to have some comments. He'll have a comment or two about this vehicle. We have some other uses for this vehicle too that we want to talk about. And then Dave has a long history with the vehicle that we're replacing. So as all of our support vehicles, they do wear out from time to time, and so he'll explain why this is necessary.
Sure. So that I can give you a little bit of background about the vehicle we're replacing, was originally purchased as a supervisor vehicle. It happened to fall into my hands as my daily driver for several years. It and I did not always get along, and so I have a little bit of background with this particular vehicle. We have essentially babied this vehicle over the past several years. Probably the past 6 years, we've driven it less than 1,500 miles per year. Because of the issues it's had ongoing, it's come to the point where for us to continue to use it would have to invest more money into the vehicle than what its Kelley Blue Book value actually is. And so that's why we're needing to see this as the replacement. The replacement that we're asking to bring to you, this vehicle, after it was moved out of a supervisor vehicle, was sent to the utility department, and it towed daily the lawn mowing equipment, which it was not particularly set up to haul on a daily basis for that. And so the replacement vehicle that we're asking you to approve tonight is actually a 3/4-ton 4x4 vehicle that will be worthy of the task that we are going to give it. With this particular vehicle we're replacing, we just recently had another vehicle that, due to towing capacity, has gone down. And so we will probably be looking at some sort of repair or replacement on that. So what we're trying to do is to spend our money wisely, is to get the tools that we need to do the daily jobs that we need to do. And so that's why we're bringing to you this recommendation for a new Ford 3/4-ton 4x4 vehicle. Remember, brand new, warranty and everything, for $29,993. Wow.
And we can expect more than 69,000 miles out of the new truck.
Yes, ma'am. To be honest with you, I went back through and had them pull some records on several of our other existing vehicles, and we're doing a better job of using our vehicles on a daily basis than what this particular vehicle shows. I believe this is an anomaly.
Thank you, Dave. Does anybody have any more questions for Dave? I think that's a pretty fine bid on a 4x4 vehicle.
And we did do comparisons with used vehicles, and used vehicles with $25,000 were only about $5,000 cheaper. So we get a full warranty, the full service of the Ford Service Department behind this vehicle, buying it new.
That's good.
Thank you, Dave. Does anybody have any questions for Dave? Or Carrie? I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the vehicle replacement.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Deb. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the purchase of this replacement vehicle. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Dave.
Take Dave with me when I buy my new car.
That takes us to our policy update for the first reading. Dr. Moss.
Yes, you have one before you, and Brent did a good job of summarizing that policy. We have Ms. Sandra and Megan with us. If anybody has questions, there's a focus in here on our nonviolent crisis prevention program, which we typically refer to as our CPI training, that we had several employees trained in. And to lean on the de-escalation of techniques before it ever gets to this point of having to implement any kind of seclusion or isolation. But if you ladies
Well, I
have
first would
elaboration.
like to formally introduce Megan Klosterman. I don't think she has met all of you, but she is our special ed director, and we hired well when we hired her. We've already seen firsthand the great work that she's doing, so I am extremely blessed to have her on our team. And Dr. Moss was right, 90% of CPI is the de-escalation. And Megan's going to speak to the policy.
Yes. So as you can read on the first page here, that MSBA has removed the annual training requirement, but CPI, being the program that we use, requires annual training. So in many ways, the program that we've selected goes above and beyond the minimum requirements set forth by MSBA. It's not required by law anymore, so that's why they took it out, but we are going to continue with our annual training. Of course, the focus being de-escalation, but we also know that sometimes the students that we work with, they do require occasional seclusion or restraint and isolation. We don't use seclusion. That is the more restrictive of the ones of the three. And so CPI provides us with the training required to do that in a way that is safe and preserves the dignity of the students as much as possible, and then works to de-escalate them.
Megan, do we have CPI instructors in our district, or do we contract that out?
We have two CPI instructors. And they do the vast majority of our in-house training. I think all of it at this point, right?
They do, except for early childhood, and one of the Crowder staff that is housed at early childhood is a CPI trainer with the additional autism, and so she does that for early childhood.
Yeah, she is.
Perfect.
At a conference right now, receiving some additional training in some of the more nuanced and advanced techniques.
I've never met her.
So she,
Do all special ed teachers get the training, the CPI training?
Not
Is it
all
just
special
for all?
ed teachers. I had it for years when I worked in
had it
another
too.
district, but I utilized the de-escalation strategies, but I never restrained. But the ones that are working in behavior classrooms or in our classrooms that have kids whose behaviors are related to their
Do principals
disability.
still get trained? Good.
Principals have a crisis team that they send as well, and it's not always just special ed.
Good.
They help us out with our bus aides, big time,
Yeah.
as well.
Very good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that we're doing annual training.
I am too.
I think this is a really important topic in our nation today.
yeah,
It
you
is.
see it in the news a
And-
lot. It's been in
Yes.
the news a lot just recently. So I think it's very, the timing is very appropriate that we're looking at this and making sure that what we're doing is appropriate for students.
Are our behavior intervention specialists trained in this too? Okay.
Yes, and we offer it at the beginning of the year, and we're having another one in January,
Okay.
so that
Very
principals
good.
can send other people.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for being here. Do I have a motion to approve this policy update for first reading?
I'll move we approve JGGA.
Easy for you to say, Doctor.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Dr. Ford and seconded by Brent that we approve this first reading. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you very much. Plus deltas.
It's Christmas.
Sir? We await your plus.
Your retirement. Is that what you were going to
No.
say?
Why don't you speak instead of us fumbling over whatever we're saying?
What I wanted to say is, we have a plus, and Mandy sent a note here thanking you for doing the WebEx as opposed to driving down from Richmond.
I think that is great. That
We had
benefits
actually
everybody.
suggested that we consider that. She did say, I hope it worked.
It did.
After the presentation, I was having a little trouble hearing all of the comments, so I didn't want to interject, but I thought I heard Sherry mention that the audit was a good, clean audit because of Shelley, but we're really talking about the resources. But I wanted to tell you how much we agree. Shelley, thank you and your team for getting information turned around so quickly and for all the assistance throughout the audit.
Hey, Shelley.
Well, and that stole my thunder, just to prove I'd already written a note. My plus was going to be Shelley and her team. And the fine audit, and I witnessed firsthand daily the interactions with the audit team and Shelley and accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, all the things that get examined during this time, as well as the federal pieces. And it was obvious that everybody was just working together and that things were quickly and easily found. And there never seemed to be any questioning or angst from our auditors as to what was being presented. And that's testament to not only those weeks, but just the due diligence throughout the year, the consistent making sure it's correct every day, so that when you do come in with those audits, it flows. So I have to give my plus too.
Thank you.
My plus is the foundation. Over 20 years ago, people had the forethought to form this, because elementaries have been asking for cameras for a long time. So shout out to the foundation for all their support.
I want to
And
add,
the
Sherry,
committee.
I'm sorry, you
And
were
the
instrumental in that. I know you said you had no, you were instrumental in that. You've been on it since the very beginning, and you're to be commended as well.
Thank you.
You
But
are.
I was not. It was
You-
all them.
You
I
were and you are.
promise.
But you
We'll leave it
started
at
it.
that.
And strong athletics and strong academics.
How about that? Isn't that
Balance.
awesome?
That
That's,
was awesome.
You know,
Yes.
really great stuff. So it's basketball season, and I'd encourage everybody to go watch a game. It's comfortable inside the gym, and whether it's the boys or the girls or whatever's going on, go out and support your Eagles. It's a lot of fun. It really is. It's the cheapest entertainment you can find. I mean that. It's a whole lot cheaper than a movie, I can tell you that. Don't get mad at me, movie theaters. So,
I can't always make it to a game, but I'm always watching or listening on TV or on the radio. I did stream in the championship
Yeah.
game on TV because I wasn't able to go, but always
stuff.
listening, even
Great
if I can't
stuff.
be there in person.
I have a couple of pluses as well to add with the, in particular with the audit. There were a couple of issues. One was the attendance issues, and I know Dr. Moss told us almost monthly with our student information system from last year that there were issues with that, and she
Yes.
she prefaced that and prefaced that and prefaced that. So it's nice to have that information before the auditors, found it. And the other thing was the issue with the buses, and we all had issue with only one vendor. And I know Mike Bevis came in and he responded to our questions and had had a great answer. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we were all satisfied with that. And just a testament to the amount of quality people we have.
Yeah, and I hate to add, I know we want to wrap this up, but when I told you that I got grilled by the auditors, I did go in and speak with our auditors. It was a very pleasant conversation, and they were looking for ways to help our district. It was a very constructive conversation. I have a tendency to have fun, say things that maybe are a little bit flippant, but the truth of the matter is they want to know, how can we help? What are you seeing as an issue or whatever? And it's really good to have a partner in that audit process, and knowing that the recommendations that we heard tonight were intended to improve our district instructionally. And obviously, Dr. Langford expressed how we follow those instructions. So it's good stuff. It was I think it was a good audit, good experience for all of us. Thanks to Shelley mostly. With all that, these pluses, I'm not going to give you a chance to give a delta. I'm going to request a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Who?
Second.
Oh, pardon me. I can't take that right now. On behalf of the Joplin School Board of Education and its administrators, we would like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday Season.
Thank you.
I think we had a motion and a second.
Me.
Deborah and Mike, thank you all. With that, I would ask that you vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Good to see you.
Yeah.